the hammer and sickle. So I learned about this. So you know what the hammer and sickle represents? It's the farmers and like the factory workers uniting to basically say, okay, we control this. We control the factory and we control the farm. They just got together, and I believe that's part of the Bolshevik Revolution. And so that's where it started. That was it was farmers, so farmers. See, look, yeah, I thought about this. There's a reason I wanted to talk about that because it's on topic of the episode. Farmers and machine workers, I guess you're the people who process the cattle. Well, I guess there's other kind of um, processing going on, but uh, you got distilleries and you got food factories, you got concrete plants, asphalt plants. These things all require uh, workers, and they got together and said, "Hey, you know what? We're taking charge of this. We're we're taking over society, and we get a cut. We're shareholders in this." They got sick of it, and it's it's kind of the inevitable outcome. It's nothing new in history. It What happens is rich people get richer and richer and richer and become stupider. And what I mean by stupid is they don't understand that other people don't like to be taken advantage. They assume that uh, you being um, uh, that they assume they're creating jobs for the economy for all the nonsense they ask, and that's actually false. That harms the economy and makes everyone miserable. It's just an unsustainable idea, and eventually revolutions happen. It happens over and over since time immemorial, right? And the hammer and sickle, it was specifically the people who worked in the factories and the farmers got together and they formed the new government. But the truth is, if you really think about it, uh, it's not like they destroyed the factories. The the previous capitalists, like some of them, yeah, they might have gotten like they were just so self-centered and greedy they fled to Switzerland or something. But uh, a lot of them would have just adapted and become part of the government itself. So this is what it ties into the idea of the communist billionaire. Like a billionaire, um, see, I don't know if I've referred to Comrade Musk recently, but he could be involved in that, right? Like if it makes sense economically, like yeah, he might lose some money, but honestly, I don't understand why other than the fact that you're playing a game that destroys people's lives, uh, it's probably a bad habit for you to continue to be that rich. Like, sure, be a billionaire, be the richest guy in the world if you want, but at what scale? It just needs to level out a bit. So, I think for the U.S. again, and they're gonna have to tax the rich too, otherwise the U.S. doesn't exist. Like as we've talked about in this series, private equity always takes money out of the game. Like if you look here, like look at electricity for example. I buy it for uh, $1.80, right? That's sort of the here. Let's look at this one here. It's not tight and I can mess with the switches. So if I export it, this one here, I export it for 76 cents, but if I buy it, I have to pay 84 cents. That's non. That doesn't. There's money disappearing out of the system, and that represents private equity. That's what it means. It's gone from the system. Okay. If the other half of the system were to give me the profit to that, now that happens internationally between countries, but it also happens domestically, right? If I make something for $5 in raw goods and sell it for $15, I only paid $5 into the community to get those goods, but I took $15 out. I therefore took $10 into private equity. And as more and more money gets tied up in private equity, a nation gets more and more incapable of being solvent. It cannot operate because, by its very nature, it does not mathematically balance as the money goes into private equity. So that's why it is imperative that taxation occurs on private equity so the society can continue to run, or you have to print more money. There's only two solutions. And there's some dumb conservatives out there who are anti-tax and they're anti-printing money. They just like, and they think nothing will come of that. Like in a little delusional echo chambers of thinking that these food factories basically operate on their own, like that their highways are made by volunteers, that don't need to eat. Just the stupidity of it is astounding. But in a socialist revolution, it really does. Now, for the US version of that, I don't think it'll be anything like that, but I do think there'll be some groups that get together. It'll involve labor unions, and it will involve just straight up just taxing the rich. I think the US as a system is quite genius and not really, the mechanics of how the US work doesn't need much tailoring. It kind of is capable of switching to socialism as it is, right? Just through taxation. All you got to do is tax the rich. It's really not rocket science. It's really not. It's that simple. And that's maybe I don't know if they'd use a hammer and sickle, but definitely have a star or some sort. Um, in the new, I guess the U.S. would just keep its flag if it ever did have a socialist revolution. But also, basically, all I can say is that it probably wouldn't even be the news, other than taxes go up to balance the budget because it's required to save the nation. It's actually good that the people do this to force the wealthy to take that private equity money and put it back in the system to fix the system. Because again, if I'm taking $5 out of my account in goods to buy materials to make something into 15, I've taken $10 net out of the system. That's private equity. And in theory, I have to spend it on something else. But if I'm too rich and I'm just banking it, or I'm uh, spending on other markets that are of not value to the system, like sending rockets into space, um, then I think the solution is just tax the rich. Um, it's not that complicated. So yeah, that's the hammer and sickle story. Yeah, it's I thought that was an interesting thing. The fact that it was farmers and it was factory workers that eventually uh, took over.